So yeah, this new level of intentional living that I discovered and find myself in came from really sitting with myself. Um, you might ask me how tshito all this time when you've been talking about getting to the root of things and reflecting, haven't you been sitting with yourself? I have, and I had been, but I'd only peeled back one layer when I needed to peel back 10. Work, and I'm not going to invalidate that I've done work. I'm not going to take away from the fact that I've put in effort, but I'm also going to acknowledge that there's more to be done. So yeah, I was scared of what I might find and having to actually confront it and deal with it. That's my truth. I'm not even gonna cap. I don't even want to lie. I was terrified because I know that my life has been filled with a lot. A lot has happened. A lot has affected me, and so yeah, approaching that was becoming scary. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who has an issue with everything all the time. And that's like that's when I was also realizing that. And when I was sitting with myself, I was like, damn, Tsakhito, you're taking 10 steps back also. Like, that's people pleaser, Tsakhito, jumping right out. That's not have boundaries, Tsakhito, jumping right out. And yeah, it was beginning to show where I was lacking boundaries with myself and other people. Hi, community. Hello. Welcome back to A Cupful. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are doing amazing. Welcome to a new month. It's September. Welcome to a new season. It's spring here in South Africa. Everybody knows how I have been very much highly anticipating warmer weather, and it is pleasing me so much. Oh, I'm so excited. It feels like stepping into something new and beautiful, which is exactly what it is. And I really look forward to the remainder of this year and all the beautiful things it has to offer to me and you. All of the blessings that are yet to come. Please make sure you've opened your heart and your mind and you're ready and willing to receive all of the amazing things that await you. So, let's talk about, yeah, so the last time I published an episode was in the first week of August, and by the time this episode is going to be published, it will be the first week of September. So I disappeared for a little bit because of some changes that were happening in my life. It was actually such a big change. I absolutely had no capacity to show up, and I wasn't going to pretend I could either. I'm really like trying to outgrow and really unlearn that, because I did it quite a lot and was expected of me quite a lot when I was a child, when I was much younger than what I am right now. Just showing up even though I didn't have the capacity to. So I'm really trying to unlearn that. So I wasn't going to show up and I wasn't going to come onto the podcast, especially if I wasn't in the space to. And I'm always saying how we should all pour into ourselves and take breaks when you can feel yourself working from a place of reserve or empty. So I'm definitely not going to come on here when I can't. I love to share my own personal experiences because I believe that it can be such a healing and overall life-changing encounter for others who have perhaps gone through the same thing. Like, I really believe in vulnerability. I absolutely believe in honesty. I believe in sharing because there's so much power and healing in that. But this time around, I'm really not going to go into too much detail. All there is to it is that I lost someone that I really love, that I really care about, that I will probably have that love for and care about for a while to come still. So yeah, and it was not to death, but in the sense that we needed to part ways and digest. But when the time has come to move forward without a person, it just has. And that is something I'm learning to value and accept. I've said this before, some people are only in our lives for a specific period of time, and that is okay. Also, time really does give you perspective and a deep understanding, and that's obviously when you're open to it. But I'm realizing that there's so much value in taking time, and I saw that when I took the time, I was able to see things from a different place. I was able to process things and digest them from a completely different place, because I was giving myself some time to work through it and to really just see it for what it is. And as hard as this experience has been, it has definitely taught me that I can appreciate the love and beautiful memories and remember it all whilst moving forward with my life. And the minute I chose to do that, like to appreciate the good things and the good experiences and the growth that I experienced when I had that person in my life, was the moment I realized that I needed to let go, that I needed to release. Because if I wasn't going to release, then I was just going to ponder and I was just going to have these constant thoughts. And like I was not actually going to release that person and I wasn't going to allow myself to move forward with my life. So, yeah, if you're in a space like I have been, like I was for all of August, where you were just like processing, or you're in a space right now where you are processing and you are accepting and like working through losing someone that you really care about, whether it is to death or whether it is just having to part ways, I hope you give yourself some time and give yourself grace. Please give yourself a lot of grace and be very compassionate to yourself and don't rush the process. Obviously, I am in a much better place right now, but that doesn't mean that I'm not remembering that person or I'm not missing that person. But it does just mean that I've chosen to work towards moving forward and being intentional about it and not holding on to something that I know has come to a close and has reached its end. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So yeah, giving myself time to process, accept, and embrace that I need to move forward with my life has been so good for me. I am in a much better place. I really, really am. And like I said, um, it's not that I have like just forgotten about that person, or like I've got everything together and I feel amazing and I'm just like no, that's not the case. But I have accepted and I do understand, and I also very strongly believe in respecting when something has reached its end and being like very intentional with yourself as an individual about moving forward without holding on, without wishing that you could have another minute with that person. It's not going to do you any good. So whether it's a friendship that you're experiencing this kind of thing in, or whether it's a romantic relationship or even with family, I hope you just give yourself time. I got off social media, so that really helped me spend time with myself, and it also became a detox within itself. I didn't know I needed it. I've been taking social media breaks, but I think this one has been the longest one I've taken completely off of social media, Instagram, TikTok, um, what else? It's like really limiting the time that I spend on WhatsApp, just really not being available because I did not have the capacity to be available. So yeah, I don't feel as fragile anymore, either, nor does my heart feel broken beyond repair. And that might sound dramatic, but that is exactly how I was feeling. Like in August, I was a hot mess. I really was completely sad and completely heartbroken that this person wasn't going to be in my life anymore. But time is showing me that it does heal all wounds, slowly but surely, bit by bit. Eventually, we'll get to a place where we're completely healed, and um, I'm feeling like 110% amazing. For now, I'm glad that I'm feeling good. Like, I'll take good. It's a very big step forward. And yeah, slowly but surely it does get better. And some of the other beautiful things that I've experienced during my time away, I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to share all of this. I got closer to God too, which I am definitely going to get into during the episode. I'm so excited to talk about this. I got a lot of clarity on where I stand with myself. This was something that I really needed. I needed to understand where I'm at right now as Tshegetso, especially because I feel like, or it has seemed like, I've been in a very long season of shedding and losing people and losing things and losing ideas and having to let go of dreams. So yeah, I in the process kind of lost my way to myself, I want to say. If that makes any sense, I hope it does. And yeah, I needed a lot of clarity, and I needed to know where I stand with myself. And I definitely have that now. I 100% have that now. And I'm going to get into that as well. And the other big thing is I began breathing again, something I haven't done properly in a while. I'm not sure if I even have this like properly been breathing, properly been experiencing this life. And I really want to get into that, and I really want to talk about that, what that has looked like for me, my experience, and why I'm saying I feel like I'm breathing again. So yeah, that was the longest intro I've ever done. I think it's time to get this show on the road now. In this week's episode, I'm going to be getting deep into this new level of intentional living I'm finding myself in, and I'm also going to be reflecting on a few things. So please stick around. Okay, so at some point or another during my growth and healing journey, I realized the importance of being intentional about being intentional with how I treat myself and my loved ones, being intentional about exercising and fueling my body with good food, being intentional about not being complacent and desiring my growth and healing to be an ongoing thing, being intentional about the life I want to create for myself, being intentional about how I speak to myself and of myself, being intentional about creating firm boundaries. Now, I was doing these things, but not at the level and intensity that I have needed to do them. And these past 2 weeks have given me a chance to really see that, to really reflect properly. And I'm really grateful that I've had the time and I've had the opportunity, and I've opened my mind enough to pick up on. I want to say when I've been slacking, but to pick up on when I've just become too comfortable, which is exactly what has happened or what had happened. And I'd really just reached a place where I was, I was present, I was there, but the car wasn't moving at the that it needed to be moving anymore. Like, I was getting lazy and tired, getting okay with getting lazy and tired, and like not doing anything about it. In order for you to not feel tired, you need to rest. And in order for you to not feel lazy, you need to ask yourself, like, what's going on here? Talk to yourself, figure things out, investigate, get to the root. But I realized that I really stopped at some point or another. And I stopped working hard for myself, and I stopped being there for myself, and I stopped being present. So yeah, I'm again grateful that I had the time to really spend reflecting and looking at the direction that I'm moving in, or I had been moving in, and realizing that it's not working for me. Like, I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm not actually taking good care of myself as I think as much as I think I am. And another thing that I picked up is that growing and healing is layered. Like, I think I've always known that, but I'm like properly realizing it now, that it's a very layered thing. And that's why you always hear the therapists, you'll always hear other people that have wellness podcasts. You can't rush through the process, you know? If you've only been in your 20s for 3 years and you've realized that you need to work on yourself, you've been at it for you've been alive for 23 years, but you're only realizing at 23. So like, now you're starting afresh. Now you're going to be a baby at something. Now you're going to be learning something new, and you can't rush through that. And yeah, because there are so many layers to this thing, you need to take it one step at a time. And there are, I'm not going to say levels, but it is a layered thing, like I'm saying. So you will peel back one layer, but then there will be 15 more waiting for you to peel back, or 100 more waiting for you to peel back. And that's why it's important to not become obsessed about healing and growing, but to just take it each day as it comes, and being intentional about it, and being focused. you know. So yeah, there are always new things to realize, and sometimes it is the same thing but the understanding becomes a lot deeper, which will often be something that will come around as a result of reflecting, which has been my experience. Or otherwise just like moving forward and then realizing that, okay, I've dealt with this and now I need to deal with this, and I've dealt with this and now it goes deeper than this, because yeah, we've been on this earth for quite a while. We've had a lot of experiences. Perhaps you've experienced trauma for like 15 years of your life and you've been on this earth for 25, and it's going to take a long time for you to unlearn things. It's going to take a long time. Trauma is not something that you work through quickly and boom, bam, you're all right. No. If you're 25 and you experienced trauma for 15 years of your life, best believe you've got to be patient with yourself. Best believe there's a lot of work that you need to do in the years to come. And again, that's why it's so important to be intentional. So yeah, this new level of intentional living that I discovered and find myself in came from really sitting with myself. You might ask me how all this time when you've been talking about getting to the root of things and reflecting, haven't you been sitting with yourself? I have, and I had been, but I'd only peeled back one layer when I needed to peel back 10. And to be honest, I have known that I needed to go a lot further, but I'm also going to acknowledge and admit in this very vulnerable moment that I got very scared and I got very complacent and I got like really, really okay with being like, I'm healing, I'm growing, I've done this, I've acknowledged this. So yeah, I'm doing the work, and I'm not going to invalidate that I've done work. I'm not going to take away from the fact that I've put in effort, but I'm also going to acknowledge that there's more to be done, so yeah, I was scared of what I might find and having to actually confront it and deal with it. That's my truth. I'm not even gonna cap. I don't even want to lie. I was terrified because I know that my life has been filled with a lot has happened, a lot has affected me, and so yeah, approaching that was becoming scary. And I think there was an episode where I was just like, don't be scared to approach things. In my complacency and my comfortability, I had also like become the person that was telling other people what to do and not doing it herself. Okay, I really was. I was becoming that person, and I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend like, I wasn't being like that. That's exactly how I was being. And I'm really sorry for that. I truly am sorry for that. Yeah, I picked up on that. I was like, I'm really just becoming the person that's being like, do that, do that, do that, but I myself am not doing that. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to become a hypocrite. I am not a hypocrite, even though I've had moments of being hypocritical. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not trying to be that person. So yeah, I was scared, I was terrified, but the time came for me to confront these things. Like that, I was just sitting. I was sitting with myself. I really spent the last almost week sitting with myself, and I was just like pondering, questioning, crying my eyes out, and yeah, just trying to figure out where we're going, where we at, where we're going. And the experience that I spoke of earlier gave me an opportunity to really sit with myself and look deep down within and ask myself some really difficult questions. Like, things like, what are my core values? Girl, I don't think I've known what my core values are. Like I've known a couple of them. Maybe I've known 4 of them. You know, I really have. But, like, what about the rest? Because surely I don't just have 4 core values. What do I really need? I don't think I'd even ever asked myself that question. Like, Tsacheto, what do you really need? Who am I really? Like, who is Tsacheto for real, for real? When she isn't a sister, when she isn't a producer, when she isn't a content writer, when she isn't a friend, like, who is Tsacheto for real? Where am I at, really? Have my actions and choices on this healing and growth journey and in my life in general, since really grasping the concept of being in my 20s, have they served me? Have they made me happy? Have they allowed me to be content or not? Have I been honest with myself and other people? And when I was reflecting and I realized that there are things that I'm missing, that I haven't been attending to, that I haven't been asking myself, I was just like, damn, okay, let's take it down a notch and take a few steps back and figure this out, because I really don't want to put myself in a position where I don't know where I'm going, or like I'm walking around acting like I know where I'm going, performing on a daily basis. I don't want to live a performative life. I want to live a real life. I want to live a full life. And again, this is something else I've spoken about on the podcast, living a full life. And a big part of living a full life is not needing to perform. You are being you are being real to yourself. You are living your true life, not what you have scripted, not what other people want to hear, not what you think you should be doing or you think you should be saying, but what makes you happy, what makes you comfortable, what is really helping you deal with the things that you struggle with. You know what I mean? So yeah, and asking myself these questions with no distractions, I had to be brutally and intentionally honest, which I can positively say is a good work in progress, because I really have not always been one to be honest with myself. Instead, I've tiptoed around the reality of many things I've been confronted with and always sought the softest landing, but not on this level of intentional living. And it is a commitment I've made to myself. And I understand that I need to step into this place. And I understand that it's not going to be easy, because now I'm what? I'm going to be very uncomfortable a lot, because I'm going to be working on peeling back these layers that I very evidently wasn't peeling back all along. Like when we get to layer 2, we go to 3, and then eventually we're gonna get to 5, and then we'll get to 10. But yeah, it almost feels like reaching this place was inevitable, because it had been a long time coming. I also realized that I was in a deep comfort zone, which is another reason why I was failing to be honest with myself, or even ask myself some hard answers that needed some hard truths. Like I was saying, like I was just on some, I'm healing, I'm growing, I know I'm fine. But girl, you're not fine when there are 20 other layers that you haven't worked through. You ain't fine. I'm talking to myself. You're really not fine. And like, that's the truth of it. And as much as you might practice saying you're fine, or you might pretend that you are fine, the truth is you aren't, and you know how you feel, and you know that you're not fine, and you know that you're running still, and you know that you're scared still, and you can feel it. And you can hear that nagging voice. There is a nagging voice that's telling you there are things here that need to be confronted. You can't avoid them. Stop avoiding them. Yeah, and yeah, the disadvantage with not really fully immersing yourself in the things that you need to immerse yourself in working on yourself, in improving yourself, I want to say, in really unpacking the trauma or unpacking the struggles, is that you won't be able to be honest with other people that you in moments that you need to, because you aren't being honest with yourself, and that's just the truth. And that's the thing, when we aren't in a clear place with ourselves as individuals, it becomes almost impossible to be in a really real place with our loved ones, with damn, just like even random people you are meant to encounter, like the encounters that you are meant to have in your life with people that have been set out by God, that you are meant to be having with people. In moments you won't be able to be honest with those people, because you are not being honest with yourself. So yeah, just don't avoid it. If you find yourself in a place where you can feel that there are things you are avoiding, where you can feel that, yeah, you've acknowledged it, but there's still more stuff to be done, like going to therapy or speaking to someone or journaling, whatever the case may be, that's how it is. What you're feeling, that feeling, that nagging feeling, there's something there. So look into it. Look into it. And you can convince yourself that you're good. But if you aren't, you really aren't. And eventually that will begin to show itself. I was starting to see things within myself, about myself. I'm around people. I am around people that I am clearly very uncomfortable around. Um, and instead of removing myself from that, I'm like pretending like I'm okay with it when I'm very clearly not. I am not okay with how certain things are being done within spaces that I am involved in, but I'm not saying anything, and I'm just like acting like it's okay. I'm okay with it. I don't want to. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who has an issue with everything all the time. And that's like that's when I was also realizing that. And when I was sitting with myself, I was like, damn, Tsakezo, you're taking 10 steps back also. Like, that's people pleaser, Tsakezo, jumping right out. That's not have boundaries, Tsakezo, jumping right out. And yeah, it was beginning to show where I was lacking boundaries with myself and other people. It was beginning to show where I was going down the same road that was going to put the same difficult position in the same strange state of mind. So yeah, I wasn't looking out for myself. I really wasn't looking out for myself. And I think that's something, when I was sitting with myself, it made me feel so guilty. I was like, I've been betraying myself in so many ways for quite a while because I was failing to be honest. Like, I was looking for somewhere to hide. I was looking for somewhere to run off to. Um, and I was doing it even a lot in moments when I was alone with myself. So, in this new space that I find myself of being intentional, I'm also learning to take serious accountability. Of course, I meet myself with love and empathy. It's not a wrestling match, it's not WWE or a bash myself session, but I've been able to really step up. Like, I'm a big girl. I feel like a big girl when I've been reflecting and even having conversations with, the people that have been supporting me and really been there for me. I've really been looking at certain situations and scenarios and taking responsibility for the role I've played in my past unhappiness, for the role I've played in my past lack of peace, in my past discomforts, in all the moments I chose not to address things that were unsettling me, in my fears to not come across as whiny or annoying or just too much, in my need to overcompensate even when those I was in past relations with were treating me badly. And I realized that this was a pattern in my life, a recurring theme that I thought I'd addressed, but clearly I needed to go 10 layers further, which I have been doing. And I've also been really understanding and wrapping my head around the fact that I'm quite young, and I had these big experiences which significantly affected me for a long time in my life, maybe until I was like, what, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, maybe like 22, and that's not so long ago. I'm about to turn 28 in December. So being kinder to myself and being more compassionate means also looking at things from the perspective of, okay, look, Tsaketo, sure, you're on a journey, sure, you have made progress, sure, you're intentional, but there is no way that this is going to, like, things will be okay in a matter of 5 years or even 6 or even 7. So I'm really learning to understand that as much as I am putting in work and I am being intentional, I'm not a factory. There isn't an output that I must have by the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month or even the end of the year. This is a process and it's a journey. Again, something else I've been preaching on this podcast, that it's a journey, but I haven't really been treating it likewise for myself. So yeah, I'm realizing that, I realized in taking responsibility and in taking accountability, that I might have had the most unrealistic expectations, like in hindsight, subconsciously, where I was like, okay, we can do this. We can do this. We're fine. We've moved forward. We've moved past this. But damn, no. In being honest with myself, I'm realizing that I've found myself going back to being a people pleaser. I find myself not having strong boundaries. Like, or laying my boundaries down. I found myself having a standard or not having a standard at all. And when I do have a standard, I'm willing to lower it to suit another person, to make space and accommodate another person in my life or other people in my life. And that is an indication, that there are still things that I need to work on, that I need to work through. And that's okay. I don't need to perform. You don't need to perform. You don't need to pretend you're doing good when you aren't. You don't need to pretend like you've got it all figured out when you don't. And the biggest reason why I started this podcast was because I wanted to, demonstrate, indicate, I don't know, show the value in being vulnerable, show the value in sharing my own experiences so that other people can, you know, see that there's nothing wrong in sharing, see that there's so much power in vulnerability, and relate, and then perhaps use my methods that I've used to work through things that have hurt me, that could have broken me in the past, that were traumatic, that were difficult. I wanted this to feel like you're having with a conversation. You're having a conversation with someone that you trust, with someone that you can relate to, with someone who you can take advice from, someone that is creating a safe space for you. So yeah, and I don't want the space to be pretentious, and I'm very intentional about that. Moving forward, I want to be as raw and honest and straightforward as I possibly can be, and not perform and not pretend like I got it together, because I don't be having it together. I'm just here to share, and hopefully that can change someone's life, that can empower someone, that can inspire someone to take action in their own life, that can make someone felt, or that can make someone feel seen and heard and understood, you know? Yeah. And what I ended up finding or realizing is that there was a little girl who was deeply wounded, a child who didn't feel loved, seen, and heard. The 10-year-old Tsedo, she didn't feel loved, seen, and heard. A 12-year-old who had to become an adult way before she was one, which had a negative impact on her, and saw her take up a motherly role. And that ended up seeping into many of my friendships and romantic relationships, being a giver and never wanting to take from others, having to show up even when I didn't have the capacity to. And so to cope, I would do things that I wasn't comfortable with, stay in situations as long as I was getting some love, some compassion and acknowledgement, even if it was barely bare minimum. Yeah, and I really did become the person everyone needed, but never who I needed to be for myself. And I've just always been, because of I love to love. That is who I am. It's one of my values, loving and really creating safe spaces and creating community with other people, um, and like being of service. This is who I am, um, and it's something that I do enjoy. Like at the core of who I am, it is a big part of who I am. Not because of I can get something out of it, but it's just because of this is something that really brings me great joy. Just like to love people and to care about them. Um, and I really love that about myself, and really just to support them and be there for them. Um, but I realize now more than ever that as much as I like to be that, and I love to pour into people, and I love to care about people, I can't do it if I'm not doing great. And I can't always be the person who's showing up, especially if I can't show up, if I can't actually show up, and I'm on reserve or I'm on empty, and I can't pretend, like I can't hide that from other people. I need to be honest. And you know what? I'm also realizing that because of my experiences in my childhood, where I wasn't being feeling loved or seen or heard, and where I did have to occupy a motherly, parental, grown up role way before time because of the circumstances in my household, I just have always believed that um, in order for me to be loved, heard, and seen, which is something else that happened quite a lot with my dad in my childhood, I need to like buy people's love, or I need to fight for people's love, or I need to be good for people to continue to love me. I need to give people things for them to continue to love me. And that's why I have been in situations where I've stayed even when I was not supposed to, even when I was being treated right, because my idea of love, my idea of being seen, my idea of being heard has always been directly linked to doing something for those things to happen for me to receive those things, and that's something that I'm having to unlearn now, that if I tell someone that I can't, I'm sorry, I can't, and they're my person, they're my people, they're my friend, they're my family, and they care about me, or if someone that cares about me, if it's people that care about me, they won't stop loving me, they won't revoke their love, they won't give me the silent treatment, they won't give me the cold shoulder just because I'm saying I can't show up, just because I'm saying I can't afford to give you money, I'm on a budget, just because I'm saying no. um no one will stop loving me because of that. And I'm having to also understand the link that there is between choosing good people for me, choosing people that are aligned with my values, that are aligned with the life that I'm trying to create for myself, and choosing to surround myself with those people, so I don't keep ending up in the same cycles of people that are making me fight for me to experience their love, or for them to see me or hear me, um, where I don't have to bend over backwards and overcompensate and just run myself dry so that they can be there for me. Um, yeah, so, acknowledging this truth has been so freeing, and it is allowing me to really want more for myself. I'm working on healing those little girls at different point in time, and getting comfortable with acknowledging that I have been carrying things that have really weighed down on me, that I've lived in survival mode for a long time, and that just because it was that way didn't mean it was right. That even though I knew and had accepted that the trauma I experienced in my childhood had significantly contributed towards my struggles as an adult, that there was even more digging to do, that I thought I got to the bottom and I thought I got to the root, but not quite. When I spoke to a therapist about some of the things I discovered, she reminded me of the importance of handling myself with care. Like, please do that for yourself. That I cannot bully myself or cause myself any further discomfort by blaming myself, because that would be counterproductive. That I cannot live in the past, because that will only hold me back. She also reinforced the importance of living an intentional life, and asking myself if I like giving and caring for others, or if I do it because I've always done it. Do I do it to be wanted, or because it actually brings me joy? No, it really does bring me joy. Do I feel good after doing those things, or do I feel drained? I can definitely most positively say I would feel drained when I was overcompensating. And I was overcompensating. I have overcompensated a lot in my life, because I have wanted to be wanted, and I've wanted to be needed, because that made me feel very valuable, and that made me feel very seen. I spent a lot of my childhood being needed. That was love for me, being needed. I'm not sure if I, I don't know, maybe also with being wanted, but like I think mostly it was just being needed. That was love for me. That's related to for me, being needed. And then again, like putting up a fight to be seen, putting up a fight to be heard, putting up a fight to be loved, constantly begging for even the most bare minimum things. So yeah, I realized that a big part of my character and core values stand firm in things like community, collaboration, giving and caring for others, always being compassionate. I actually see the value in those things and believe in them. However, I know I need to reinforce boundaries in how I share and give. I cannot drain myself mentally, emotionally, physically, and even financially wanting to give, when the reality is I don't actually have much to give at that point in time. There are some seasons, as I've said before, in your life that require you to like focus on yourself and really hone in, and you're not in a place to be giving a lot, and that's fine. And I'm learning that only now. I never knew the value of these things. I never understood the importance of them. But I'm grateful that I can see that now, and I'm grateful that I understand it now. And I'm grateful that there is an opportunity for me to unlearn certain ways of being, certain ways that I was conditioned to be and live and, function. If you are experiencing something similar, or have found yourself needing to confront more layers of the hardships and trauma you have experienced, please, please be kind and good to yourself. You won't be able to move forward, keep guilt tripping yourself. It is really only going to keep you in the same place. I am so grateful. I want to say I need to preach about it. I'm so grateful for how isolating this has been. I don't see isolation as a bad thing anymore. A lot of the times we need to be alone. We need to be alone, and I'm not saying like, alone in a dark room every day and you're never leaving your room and you no, I'm saying there's a time where you need to be alone in your head and you need to be alone with your thoughts, and you really just need to sit with yourself. And I have needed to, for once, for real sit with myself. No distractions, just me and my truth, and finding ways to move forward. And it has been good for me. I'm also grateful that I've had so much support and compassion shown to me. Big shout out to God for being so loving and giving me the provision to deal with the pain I had pretty much compartmentalized and like really separated into different places, and I just didn't want to approach it. I didn't want to deal with it. I've also gotten, like I said earlier, I was really excited about this. I've gotten so much closer to God too. This level of intentional living has really required me to do that, and it's like brought me closer to God, like in amazing ways. Being intentional about my relationship with God so that I no longer feel like I am carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I no longer feel the need to hide behind anything. A big thing that used to define me was my degrees, my career, accomplishments, people I know, exciting and cool experiences that I've been a part of. I used to use those things to suppress the pain I was feeling, no cap, for real. Those were things that I used to hide behind very well. I've always been like low-key, high-key, I don't know, an overachiever. And it used to be a big defining thing for me, like how I define myself. But I really don't feel like that anymore because I gave it all to him. I've given it all to him, and I continue to do so every single day. I'm led by him, and I can feel how much I'm loved, cared for, protected, and seen. Like a big part of just moving forward for me has been really reflecting and realizing that if there's one thing that I can say for sure is that God loves me, God sees me, God hears me, and that's all I've really needed all this time, to put God at the center of everything and to surrender everything to him. And God doesn't care about me or love me or see me or just want to hold me and hug me because of the things I've achieved, but because he loves me and because he just does. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to buy him a gift. I don't need to do anything for him to love me. He just loves me. And that is just like more than enough for me, I've also gotten a lot of clarity about where I stand with myself, like I mentioned earlier on, especially after really sitting down and spending a lot of quiet time alone. After asking myself the questions I mentioned earlier on in the episode, and realizing that there are quite a few things missing or that have been missing, I'm working on them now, that I needed to figure out, like my core values. Y'all already know, I just mentioned it, how much I value community and all of that good stuff. So that's something that I will always anchor myself in, like loving people, caring for them, being of service, in the most functional, sustainable, and healthy ways possible. Another thing is I value growth, which you also already know about. According to a core value sheet I found, this falls under achievement, accomplishment. And when I was going through the list, I identified more like accomplishment, challenge. I like a good challenge, credibility. Credibility is very important to me, prosperity. Another one I really identified with was creativity and curiosity. I am and will always probably be highly likely an adventurous person. And I kind of, that kind of like had wilted away, the adventurer in me. And this time that I was not, that I was feeling like I'm feeling like I was performing quite a lot, or I wasn't really being true to myself. Like I was losing parts of myself, parts of me were wilting away. You know, I wasn't I wasn't being Tagit the adventurer anymore. Um, I value things like creativity. I think not being true with myself was also affecting that. I couldn't be truthfully creative. I value exploration, innovation, imagination, and uniqueness. Another heading I enjoyed reading through and identifying with was feelings and mindset. So, accept comfort, compassion, being content, being empathetic, and having that reciprocated. Gratitude is a really important value for me too. So is happiness, love, passion, respect, sensitivity, being thoughtful, and having that reciprocated. I really could go on, but the last one I want to mention is togetherness and unity. I really do believe in family. I believe in community. I've said this. I will always say this. I will always stand by this. All of the things that and make up those relationships too, I believe in them. I believe that I would not be where I am without the love, kindness, support, and compassion I've received from others. And I strongly believe that we should all be intentional about building strong and long lasting relationships. If we can, when we can, let's do it. They are just so valuable. Doing this really helps identify what it is I actually value to pour more into, and which values I've spent a long, long time, particularly most of my 20s, neglecting. It reminded me that as much as I say these are my values, am I actually prioritizing them? I was asking myself, girl, come on. Am I living according to them? Do I do things and invite people into my life that align with my values, like for real? The other thing I asked myself, what do I really need? Right now, it's peace, to embrace my season of solitude fully and to probably heal little bits, or like the little versions of Tshito that need to be healed. I need to reparent those little girls, those parts in my childhood that require reparenting, and I'm really committed to doing that. And yeah, like walking in this journey where I need to be alone, just be alone and accept and embrace that. Where am I really at? Honestly speaking, still figuring things out and being totally okay with it. And like I'm fine being here. I'm really okay being in a place where I'm putting one foot in front of the other and trying to see what's up, what's next. Who am I really? A work in progress, but also mostly someone who wants to live an intentional and full life. And I'm very committed to putting my best foot forward, my best resources forward, my best self forward to make that happen. Have my actions and choices on this journey served me, made me happy, allowed me to be content, or not? Most definitely not, but I'm going to fix that. And I'm happy that I have acknowledged where I've been going wrong, and I'm happy that I am not beating myself down about it. I've experienced feelings of disappointment, of betraying myself, and that's all normal, but I'm not dwelling on that because I have an opportunity to keep trying every single day, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Also, just a disclaimer, I don't want to diminish, I don't want to dismiss the good choices that I have made, the opportunities that I have pursued that have allowed me to become a much better person. I'm not going to dismiss that, and I'm not going to invalidate that 100%, but I do realize that most recently in my life, I wasn't being who I needed to be for myself. I wasn't looking out for myself the way I have needed to. I haven't been making decisions that have been making me happy and being true to myself, you know what I mean? So yeah. Another thing is, I know for a fact that on the most part, I haven't always been honest with myself, and that has caused me to not be honest with other people. But that's something else that I'm working on, and I'm grateful that I can see that as much as I've wanted to believe that I've been truthful, I've been saying my piece. I've been really okay with myself and good with myself, and therefore being able to be okay and good with others and come from a very honest place wherever I'm coming from with whatever it is I'm coming with. The truth is, even that needs work, and I'm going to work on that. And I'm proud of myself for seeing these things and picking up on them and wanting to do something about them. Yeah, asking myself these questions and initiating these conversations with myself has really made such a big difference. I'm also not trying to coddle my feelings or make myself seem like a victim. And I can appreciate this growth on my part. I really can. I'm really proud of myself. Earlier, I also mentioned that I feel like I can actually breathe again. And by this, I mean that for a long time, I have felt like I have been holding my breath and walking on eggshells, trying to make other people happy, trying really hard and working overtime to keep people in my life even when they weren't actually invested in being there, not choosing myself, choosing people, places, and things that absolutely did not align with who I am and my values, using personality instead of character as my criteria when it comes to inviting people into my life. Hearing this inner cry, hearing this inner voice, and pretending like I wasn't hearing a single thing. Sweeping the insecurities and fears I've always struggled with right under the carpet, instead of facing them and really dealing with them. I also want to be honest and say that for a lot of 2023, I've been questioning a lot of things, specifically things that have had to do with what's mentioned, like everything that I just mentioned, like yeah, everything from not choosing myself to trying really hard to make other people happy and like really working overtime to make sure that I keep people in my life when I should have just let them go and let them be. Yeah, and it's been bothering me for a lot of this year, but because I just wasn't willing to be honest with myself, it was just easier for me to ignore it or just like dismiss it. And I was also really distracted and I felt like very comfortable and I became very complacent. I never actually took the time to dig deeper. And sitting down to think and reflect gave me an opportunity to be incredibly honest with myself, which is what often happens when you have nowhere to run or even hide. You have to face it all. I have an episode called You Can't Run Away Forever. I think I was talking to myself there in hindsight. I'm realizing now. I'm realizing it now. You really can't run away forever. You really can't hide from things forever. And we shouldn't want to. We should face our issues. We should face our challenges head on, face on, whichever one. I have had sleepless nights, days filled with tears, and moments where I thought my heart was too broken for me to put it back together. Again, like I said, it's been a season of losing a lot of people, but I eventually realized that I needed this period to happen so that I could get back to work and show up for myself the way I needed to. 2023 has been such a challenging year. Girl, we've been at war. I have had to let go of so many ideas, relationships, and even pain. I have had to accept the role I have played in my own suffering, accept that because of I was hurt and holding onto it was hindering my own growth. But it has also been a year that has been filled with so many lessons, so much evolution, so much moving forward, and so much reintroducing myself to me and others. I have also given birth to new dreams, taken the working on my self journey up a notch, and the life I need for myself, and not limiting myself or my needs to suit anyone else but me. I'm learning to be bold about who I am, what I want, and the kind of people I want to be surrounded by. I am not afraid to be alone anymore and understand that sometimes that is just a part of the life journey. Some parts or seasons are going to be lonely and I cannot run away from it. All I can do is embrace it. I am so proud of how far I've come, even though I still have quite a way to go. And I'm so grateful that I can appreciate it all. When I look back on my journey, I don't even recognize than I was before. 24-year-old Tseto is just like different in comparison to almost 28-year-old Tseto. Different girl with different priorities and dreams. All the pain I used to carry, how burdened I used to feel each and every day of my life. I used to be such a bitter and angry person who blamed how much alcohol I consumed, all the dangerous situations I put myself in, all the other poor choices on my childhood trauma and the people that contributed to it. And sure, I cannot invalidate that those experiences have affected me as an adult. However, eventually I realized that I can either live in my pain and misery or I can do something about it. As hard as it was, because for a long time in my life I was surrounded by hardships and pain, which is all I knew, I chose the latter, because living in that was becoming so unbearable and it was tearing me to pieces. I've been privileged enough to have access to therapy and a lot of support, which has helped me so much. I do not take that for granted and feel so blessed to have been able to mend my torn pieces and learn new and healthy ways of living. Not running, but dealing and finding ways forward that will be good for me. I'm so happy that my life is filled with God's presence, that I'm focused on moving forward and not backwards, and that I'm not ashamed of my story or past mistakes because they have significantly shaped the person I am and becoming. This is where we are ending this week's episode. Damn, I hope that was not an abrupt ending. This is where we are ending this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I have been speaking. I think my voice is like at its wit's end now. It's like 54 minutes, 55 minutes on the clock. It's saying 55. I hope that this was a good one and that you enjoyed it. I really hope that this was of value to you. I hope that if you are experiencing something similar in your life, that you will be able to really work through it, that you will be able to find your support system, that you will be your own support system, and that you will show yourself love and kindness and care and compassion. If you enjoyed this episode, a 5-star rating. It really helps the podcast grow and for it to reach new listeners. Please comment and let me know what your thoughts were on this one. The Cupful is available on all listening platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. So please tell a friend, tell another friend to go give it a listen. You can also find me on Instagram. My personal account is at Tshegie_MO. That's TSHEGE_MO. And the Cupful one is at A_Cupful. That is at A_CUPFULL. Please have a beautiful remainder of this week. Work hard when you need to, and rest just as hard when it is time for that. Nourish your body and mind. Be kind to yourself and others. Make good choices. And don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.